Imagine walking into a town where laughter died a century ago, yet whispers still echo through the empty streets. The American West is filled with ghost towns, once alive, now cursed with chilling legends and restless spirits. From abandoned saloons to graveyards that refuse to stay silent, these places hold secrets you were never meant to hear. Stay with me as we count down the 10 creepiest haunted ghost towns in the American West, if you dare. If this sent chills down your spine, hit like and subscribe for more terrifying ghost town stories. 1. Bodie State Historic Park, California. High in the Sierra Nevada mountains, hidden among windswept hills and bone-chilling silence, lies Bodie, California's most infamous ghost town. Once a booming gold mining settlement in the late 1800s, Bodie was home to over 10,000 residents. The town was alive with the clamor of saloons, gunfights in the streets, and dreams of fortune. But when the gold dried up, Bodie withered into a place of death, despair, and ghostly whispers that have never truly faded. Locals speak of the Curse of Bodie, a chilling legend that warns visitors never to steal even the smallest artifact from the town. Those who dare to take a rock, a nail, or even a rusty can often regret it. Over the years, the park rangers have received hundreds of letters from terrified tourists, begging to return the stolen items. These letters tell stories of sudden accidents, financial ruin, illnesses, and even unexplained deaths that haunted them until the object was sent back. Visitors also report seeing phantom figures wandering the dusty streets. One of the most unsettling tales comes from the old Mendelssohn house, where the apparition of a woman has been seen peering out of the window, her eyes cold and lifeless. Families who stayed near this house have spoken of waking up to hear soft footsteps pacing the floorboards, when no one else was there. Another chilling hotspot is the old schoolhouse. Tourists and staff claim they've heard the faint sound of children laughing and reciting lessons, even though the classrooms have been empty for nearly a century. One park ranger described how his flashlight flickered out in the schoolhouse, and in the darkness, he heard the unmistakable sound of chalk scratching on the blackboard. Even photographers who visit Bodie have eerie stories. Cameras malfunction, batteries drain instantly, and strange misty figures appear in photos, figures that were never there in person. What makes Bodie especially terrifying is that everything here is preserved in a state of arrested decay. It looks as if time simply froze, plates still sit on tables, chairs wait in silence, and shops stand abandoned, as though the residents vanished overnight. The stillness itself feels haunted, as if the spirits of Bodie are trapped, replaying their lives and tragedies forever. So if you ever visit Bodie, remember one thing: look, but never touch, because the curse of Bodie doesn't forgive. 2. Rhyolite Ghost Town, Nevada. In the barren deserts near Death Valley, the ruins of Rhyolite, Nevada stand like broken teeth against the horizon. At its peak in the early 1900s, Rhyolite was a glittering promise of fortune, banks, a stock exchange, even an opera house filled the town. But as quickly as it rose, it crumbled. Within just 2 decades, greed, financial collapse, and the unforgiving desert sun left Rhyolite to the ghosts. Today, its skeletal buildings, crumbling walls, hollow windows, and the remains of a once grand bank, cast long shadows that seem to move on their own. Visitors often report a suffocating feeling of being watched the moment they step inside. One of Rhyolite's most chilling stories surrounds the Cook Bank building, the town's centerpiece. People claim to see shadowy figures drifting through its hollow doorways. Some describe hearing the metallic clang of gold coins spilling onto the floor, even though the vault has been empty for over a century. A tourist once recounted how he set his hand on the cold stone wall, only to feel a pulse, like the faint beat of a heart, thumping from deep inside. Another hotspot is the ruined bottle house, built entirely of glass bottles by a miner named Tom Kelly. Legend says Kelly built it with laughter and whiskey, but today, visitors hear soft clinking sounds, as though invisible hands are knocking the bottles together. One woman claimed she saw a translucent miner sitting inside the bottle house, his eyes reflecting the moonlight like shards of glass. But perhaps the eeriest part of Rhyolite is its graveyard silence. Many explorers who have camped nearby describe hearing disembodied voices at night. Some have heard horses' hooves pounding across the desert floor, only to find no tracks in the morning. Others recall hearing the faint music of a piano, the ghost of Rhyolite's once lively opera house echoing across the sands. Paranormal investigators who've brought equipment here reported unexplained spikes in electromagnetic activity and captured chilling EVPs, whispers saying, "Get out," and "Still here." Standing in Rhyolite, it's easy to believe the spirits of desperate miners never left. Their dreams of gold turn to dust, but their restless souls still wander the ruins. If you visit, beware, the desert may feel empty, but in Rhyolite, you are never truly alone. 3 Garnet Ghost Town, Montana. Deep in the forests of western Montana lies Garnet, one of the most preserved ghost towns in America. In the 1890s, this place thrived with miners chasing gold and families hoping for a better life. Saloons, hotels, and shops lined the streets, echoing with music and laughter. But when the gold veins ran dry, Garnet was abandoned almost overnight, leaving behind silent cabins and dusty rooms, frozen in time. What makes Garnet terrifying is not just its emptiness, but the feeling that the town never truly died. Tourists often report an unsettling sense of being watched, especially when walking through the old J.K. Wells Hotel. Guests who dared to stay overnight claimed to hear doors slamming shut by themselves and heavy boots pacing the wooden halls. One visitor swore she woke to the sound of a woman whispering right by her ear, though she was alone. Locals say the spirits of miners still linger in Garnet's shadowy corners. The Kelly's Saloon, once filled with drunken laughter, is now known for ghostly apparitions. Paranormal investigators have captured strange orbs of light floating across the bar, and even the faint sound of glasses clinking together as if the party never ended. One of the most chilling experiences comes from the abandoned schoolhouse. Many visitors report hearing children's laughter drifting through the empty halls. A park ranger once shared his story. While locking up at dusk, he heard the sound of tiny footsteps behind him. When he turned, he saw small dusty footprints appearing in the hallway, but no child was there. Photographers also tell of eerie encounters. Cameras malfunction without explanation, batteries drain instantly, and in some photos, ghostly faces appear in the windows of abandoned cabins. These strange figures seem to vanish when looked at with the naked eye. Despite its haunting legends, Garnet is open to visitors. But everyone who comes here agrees on one thing: silence doesn't last long. In Garnet, the past is alive, whispering, watching, and waiting for anyone brave enough to step inside. For St. Elmo Ghost Town, Colorado. Hidden high in the Colorado Rockies lies St. Elmo, one of the most famous, and most haunted, ghost towns in America. Founded in 1880 during the gold rush, the town once boomed with nearly 2,000 residents. Trains carried in supplies, saloons stayed crowded day and night, and the streets echoed with the noise of miners chasing their fortunes. But when the mines dried up in the early 20th century, St. Elmo fell silent. Today, over 40 of its wooden buildings still stand, eerily preserved, as if the residents walked out yesterday and never returned. But many believe the residents never truly left. Visitors often speak of an overwhelming heaviness in the air, like dozens of unseen eyes are watching them from broken windows. Among all of St. Elmo's legends, one spirit stands out: Annabelle Stark. Annabelle was the daughter of the Stark family, who ran the town's general store and hotel. Unlike most, the Starks refused to leave when St. Elmo declined. Annabelle lived here until her death in 1952, long after the town had been abandoned. Locals described her as eccentric, bitter, and fiercely protective of her home. To this day, people claim her ghost still guards the dusty storefront. Tourists browsing the old shop have seen the figure of a stern woman staring at them before vanishing into thin air. Some even report the door slamming shut as if they've overstayed their welcome. Another chilling spot is the old schoolhouse. Paranormal investigators have recorded the faint sound of chalk scratching on the blackboard, though no one was inside. Others describe the laughter of children echoing across the empty playground, the voices of students who never grew up, trapped in an endless recess. Night in St. Elmo is the most terrifying. Rangers and ghost hunters tell stories of lantern lights glowing in the upper windows of abandoned cabins, swaying as if someone inside is moving about. Footsteps crunch across the dirt streets, yet no figure can be seen. Some visitors even swear they smelled smoke from the long-dead train that once ran through the valley. St. Elmo may look like a picturesque relic of the Old West, but those who visit quickly realize it's more than just history frozen in time. It's a town where the dead never stopped living, and where Annabelle and the ghosts of miners still wander, unwilling to let go of their home in the mountains. 5. Jerome Ghost Town, Arizona. Perched on the steep slopes of Cleopatra Hill in Arizona lies Jerome, once known as the wickedest town in the West. Founded in the late 1800s as a copper mining camp, Jerome quickly became infamous for its lawlessness. With saloons, brothels, and gambling halls operating day and night, crime and violence were common. At its peak, the town had nearly 15,000 residents, but when the mines closed in the 1950s, Jerome nearly vanished. Only a few hundred people remain today, but many claim the ghosts of its rowdy past never left. The most infamous haunted spot is the Jerome Grand Hotel, originally built in 1926 as the United Verde Hospital. Here, hundreds of miners took their last breath after deadly accidents underground. Guests at the hotel report hearing the rattling of gurney wheels in the hallways, the squeak of old hospital beds moving on their own, and the cries of unseen patients echoing in the night. One guest swore she saw a figure in a nurse's uniform walk past her room, only to vanish when she opened the door. Perhaps the most chilling ghost story is that of Claude Harvey, known as the Maintenance Man. In 1935, Harvey was found crushed to death in the hotel's elevator shaft under mysterious circumstances. Today, visitors say the elevator operates on its own, stopping at random floors. Some even claim to feel a cold hand on their shoulder as they wait by the doors, as if Harvey himself is still on duty. Outside the hotel, the entire town hums with paranormal energy. In the old high school, people have heard the faint voices of children chanting lessons, though the classrooms have been empty for decades. On the winding streets, ghostly miners have been spotted wandering, still carrying lanterns as if searching for their way back to the mines. Locals also talk about the spirit of a madam who once ran a brothel. Men staying overnight have reported the strong scent of perfume filling their rooms, followed by the vision of a woman in a flowing red dress who disappears when approached. At night, Jerome transforms into something truly otherworldly. The town lights flicker, footsteps echo on cobblestone alleys, and the desert wind carries whispers that seem to come from nowhere. Paranormal investigators often call Jerome one of the most haunted towns in America, a place where history, tragedy, and restless spirits linger side by side. Jerome may be a tourist attraction today, but those who dare to visit after dark discover it's not just Arizona's most famous ghost town, it's a place where the dead still walk among the living. 6. Bannack State Park, Bannack Ghost Town, Montana. Hidden deep in the remote valleys of Montana lies Bannack, a once booming gold rush town that now sits eerily silent under the open sky. Founded in 1862 after a massive gold strike, Bannack quickly swelled with miners, prospectors, and fortune seekers. But with riches came chaos. Lawlessness ruled the dusty streets, and violent deaths were so common that Bannack gained a reputation as one of the most dangerous settlements in the West. The most infamous figure of Bannack's bloody past was Sheriff Henry Plummer. Outwardly, he wore the badge of justice, but in secret, he led a ruthless gang of outlaws. Known as the Innocents, Plummer's gang terrorized travelers, robbing, murdering, and burying their victims in shallow graves around town. When his double life was finally revealed, an angry mob captured Plummer and hanged him on January 10, 1864. Some say his restless spirit still stalks the town, angry, vengeful, and unwilling to leave the gallows behind. Visitors walking Bannack's old streets often feel a strange chill near the spot where Plummer was executed. Paranormal investigators have reported phantom footsteps following them, heavy breathing in their ears, and sudden gusts of icy wind even on warm summer days. Some have even claimed to see a shadowy figure, believed to be Plummer, standing with a rope burn visible on his neck. But Plummer isn't the only ghost said to haunt Bannack. Inside the Old Mead Hotel, built in 1875, guests describe terrifying encounters. The ghost of a little girl, said to have drowned in nearby Grasshopper Creek, is often seen in the halls. Her giggles echo through empty rooms, and her small handprints appear mysteriously on dusty window panes. One visitor swore that she tugged at his coat sleeve before vanishing into thin air. Others have encountered ghostly figures peering from second-story windows of abandoned homes, even though the buildings were completely locked and empty. At night, lantern lights flicker along the creek, as if miners from long ago are still searching for gold in the icy waters. What makes Bannack truly unnerving is how preserved it feels. More than 60 structures still stand, from saloons to jails to the old schoolhouse. Walking through the silent town feels like stepping into another time, but one filled with echoes of murder, betrayal, and restless spirits that refuse to move on. To this day, Bannack is considered one of the most haunted ghost towns in America, a place where the Wild West's blood-soaked past still lingers in the shadows. 7 Terlingua Ghost Town, Texas. In the scorching desert of southwest Texas, near the Mexican border, lies Terlingua, a ghost town with a history drenched in sweat, dust, and death. Once a thriving mining community during the early 1900s, Terlingua boomed when quicksilver, mercury, was discovered in its rugged hills. Hundreds of workers, many of them Mexican immigrants, came seeking fortune, but the harsh desert, brutal heat, and dangerous mines took a deadly toll. The mines were perilous. Explosions, collapses, and poisonous fumes claimed countless lives. Entire families were left broken as fathers and sons perished underground. The town grew quickly, but so did its graveyard, a haunting reminder of how unforgiving Terlingua really was. Even today, visitors wander through the old cemetery, where crude wooden crosses lean against the desert wind, and sun-bleached graves tell the story of miners who never escaped the earth they dug into. Legends say those miners never left. Tourists and paranormal investigators have reported strange figures moving among the graves at dusk, their outlines shimmering like heat waves before vanishing into thin air. At night, faint sounds echo from the abandoned shafts, picks striking stone, muffled voices, and sometimes a chilling scream that seems to rise from deep within the earth. The old company store and crumbling adobe homes add to the eerie atmosphere. Some visitors swear they've seen shadowy silhouettes standing in doorways, watching silently before dissolving into the darkness. Others have reported glowing lights flickering across the desert hills, as if miners' lanterns are still guiding the way home, long after death. Perhaps the most unsettling stories come from the Terlingua Cemetery. Locals say if you stand quietly among the graves during a full moon, you may hear whispered prayers in Spanish, voices of the dead pleading for peace. One traveler even claimed a cold hand grabbed his wrist as he bent to read an old headstone, though no one else was there. Today, Terlingua draws curious travelers, ghost hunters, and even artists who've revived parts of the town. But when the sun sets and the desert grows quiet, the atmosphere changes. The wind howls through broken windows, footsteps echo on empty streets, and the sense of being watched becomes almost unbearable. Terlingua is more than just a ghost town, it's a place where the line between the living and the dead feels paper-thin. Those who dare to stay after dark often leave with stories they'll never forget, if they leave at all. 8 Goldfield Ghost Town, Nevada. Back in the early 1900s, Goldfield, Nevada wasn't just another mining town, it was the richest gold strike in the state's history. At its peak, Goldfield was home to nearly 20,000 people, filled with bustling saloons, hotels, and a lawless reputation where greed ruled the streets. But as quickly as it rose, it fell. The gold ran dry, fires swept through, and the once glittering town crumbled into silence. Today, Goldfield is a mix of ruins and preserved relics, and some say it's one of the most haunted places in Nevada. At the center of it all stands the infamous Goldfield Hotel. Built in 1908, it was considered luxurious for its time, but behind its grand walls lurks a history soaked in tragedy and terror. Visitors and paranormal investigators claim the hotel is filled with restless spirits. One of the most chilling legends tells of a young woman named Elizabeth, who was said to have been locked in a room by the hotel's owner after becoming pregnant. She supposedly died there, and her spirit is said to remain, crying out in sorrow, sometimes appearing at the window, other times as a faint figure wandering the hallways. Guests report cold spots, flickering lights, and the sound of chains dragging across the floor at night. But Elizabeth isn't alone. Countless others, miners, drifters, and outlaws, are said to haunt Goldfield. Some claim to hear the sounds of phantom horses galloping through the empty streets. Others tell of dark shadows moving quickly between buildings, always just out of sight. Paranormal teams who've investigated the Goldfield Hotel describe doors slamming on their own, voices captured on recorders, and even violent poltergeist activity. Even the cemetery nearby carries its own chilling stories. Visitors have spoken of ghostly figures standing among the graves, vanishing when approached. The desert winds whistle through the headstones, but sometimes it carries something more, faint voices, laughter, and cries from a century ago. Walking through Goldfield at night feels like stepping into another time, one where greed, violence, and desperation still linger. The silence of the desert only makes the whispers louder. Those brave enough to spend the night often leave convinced that Goldfield isn't abandoned at all, its dead simply refuse to leave. 9 Calico Ghost Town, California. In the barren Mojave Desert of California lies Calico, once a booming silver mining town in the 1880s. At its height, nearly 1,200 people lived here, chasing fortunes buried deep in the desert hills. But when silver prices collapsed, Calico's fate was sealed. Families abandoned their homes, businesses shut down, and the town was left to the dust and silence of the desert. Today, Calico has been partially restored as a historic park, but behind the tourist attractions, whispers of its haunted past remain. Visitors and staff alike tell chilling tales of spirits that never left the town. The most famous ghost is said to be Tumbleweed Harris, Calico's last town marshal. A towering man with a booming voice, he kept order during the town's wildest days. Locals claim his heavy footsteps still echo through the streets, and some tourists even report seeing a massive shadowy figure patrolling at night, as if Harris still guards the town he once protected. Inside the Lane House Museum, where old mining relics are displayed, guests often feel sudden cold spots or hear objects moving on their own. A little girl's laughter is sometimes heard, though no child is there. Staff members have even reported toys mysteriously shifting across the floor when no one is watching. The abandoned mines are another source of ghostly activity. Paranormal investigators have picked up strange voices deep underground, begging for help or warning visitors to leave. Some explorers describe glowing orbs floating in the darkness, vanishing the moment they're approached. It's as though the spirits of miners who perished in cave-ins are still trapped within the earth. And then there's the Calico Schoolhouse, where teachers once struggled to keep order among the miners' children. Today, it's said the voices of children can still be heard reciting lessons, or the faint scrape of chalk on a blackboard, though the building has been empty for over a century. At night, when the tourists leave, Calico transforms into something far more unsettling. The silence of the desert is broken by phantom voices, unexplained footsteps, and shadows drifting along the hillsides. Some visitors swear they've seen lanterns flickering across the desert trails, as if miners are still searching for silver in the afterlife. Calico may be a historic landmark by day, but by night, it's a haunted relic where the Wild West refuses to rest. 10 Kennecott Mines National Historic Landmark, Alaska. Far in the icy wilderness of Alaska sits the Kennecott Mines, a once thriving copper empire that rose in the early 1900s. Surrounded by glaciers and mountains, this remote mining camp brought wealth to investors but hardship to the men who worked its frozen depths. For 3 decades, miners toiled in brutal conditions, battling avalanches, bitter cold, and treacherous shafts. By the late 1930s, the copper was gone, and the company abandoned the site, leaving behind entire buildings, machinery, and homes frozen in time. But something else was left behind too, the restless spirits of those who never made it out. Visitors describe Kennecott as eerily preserved, as if the workers vanished overnight. Typewriters, boots, and mining equipment still sit where they were left. Yet, in the silence of the Alaskan wilderness, strange sounds drift through the empty halls, the clang of metal, ghostly footsteps, and hushed voices carried on the cold wind. The old concentration mill, a towering wooden structure clinging to the mountainside, is said to be the most haunted. Workers lost their lives there in accidents, crushed by machinery, suffocated in collapses, or frozen in sudden storms. Paranormal investigators claim to hear men shouting orders, the rumble of carts, and even screams echoing in the night. Some have seen shadowy figures moving along the catwalks, vanishing when approached. The miners' barracks are no less unsettling. Guests who dare to step inside often feel a crushing sense of despair, as if the walls themselves hold memories of exhaustion and fear. Cold spots appear out of nowhere, and in some cases, visitors report feeling watched, eyes peering from the dark corners of abandoned rooms. Perhaps the most chilling stories come from hikers who pass through Kennecott at night. They speak of lantern lights glowing in the distance, moving steadily up the mountain trails. When they approach, the lights vanish, leaving only darkness. Locals believe these are the spirits of miners still making their endless climb to work, even in death. Today, Kennecott stands as both a historic landmark and one of Alaska's most haunted relics. Surrounded by breathtaking beauty, it hides a dark past of suffering, sacrifice, and restless souls. Those who wander its frozen streets say the silence is deafening, and sometimes, not silence at all. The ghost towns of the American West may look abandoned, but as we've seen tonight, some things refuse to stay buried. Shadows still wander the streets, whispers still echo in the wind, and the past is never truly gone. Which of these haunted towns would you dare to visit after dark? Tell me in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey through the forgotten and the feared, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Until next time, keep your lights on, and your doors locked.